My ex and I have two girls together, tweens. We separated when they were 6 months and 2 years old, divorced 2 years later, and he remarried a year later. I've never gotten along with his wife because she seems convinced that she's my kid's mom. It's only gotten worse since I remarried and moved away. I tried to get primary custody of the kids when I moved. Still, both the kids asked to stay with their dad, and their lawyer argued that they'd have to share a room with my stepkids and go to public school at my house. In contrast, their dad has a house triple the size of mine where they'll have their own rooms, and they'd go to a good private school. So I got them every other weekend. Their stepmom used to contact me constantly about foods they like or don't like, are sensitive to, not wanting the kids to have to share their toys, and keeping an eye out for teasing by my stepkids. Nothing happened. My younger daughter's just sensitive and using something like a nightlight or white noise machine at night. Every time I told her to back off, I knew what I was doing with my own kids, but she never listened. Then she started picking them up instead of their dad. I told her I wouldn't let the kids go with anyone but their dad. And they actually took me to court over this and had my custody reduced to visitation at their house for almost 2 years. Now I have them every other weekend again, and I started to realize they call their stepmom mommy or a mom. They don't call me anything, and they only call my husband by his first name. I tried to correct them every time they called her a mom, but she'd give me a look and tell them it was okay, and they could call her whatever they wanted. I eventually told them not to bother visiting if they insist on calling another woman mom but won't even call me mom. They haven't visited or called in over a month. A part of me thinks they just turned the kids against us and wants to go to court for parental alienation. But part of me just wants to let go and focus on my new family. Am I the idiot for telling them not to bother visiting if they insist on calling another woman mom, but not me? You are the idiot. Wow. Congratulations on being less mature than your twin daughters. Sounds like you're jealous of your ex and stepmom and prioritize that jealousy over what's best for your kids. Refusing to let the stepmom pick up the kids is very telling, even when it means reducing custody of the kids. They seem to care that you're hurt, not that you hurt your own kids. It's sad. Just info, what happened between the one girl and the stepmom regarding the use of the word LMAI? Between the girl and your stepkids, nothing happened. She's just sensitive and could use a little toughening up from her step-siblings. There's nothing to see here. No wonder these kids don't want to be around their mom. I told her that I wouldn't let anyone but their father pick them up. The court reduced my visitation to supervised visits at their house for 2 years. She must have done something wild. Who knows all the ways she's messing them up too with her toxicity and immaturity. Oh, I was like, okay, but what did you do? Even the initial custody of only getting them every other weekend is abnormal. There's no way it's just because the dad's house is bigger and they can go to a private school because when he remarried, the youngest one wasn't even in school yet. Wow, a woman's trying to learn things about her stepchildren so she can take better care of them. The horror. She's not trying to turn your children against you. She's trying to be a good stepmother, and you're punishing them. You know, some step-parents actively try to get rid of their stepchildren. You sound bitter that they actually like this woman, and you're clearly omitting a lot of information. And even the information you're providing at face value demonstrates why the courts made the decisions they did. Beyond that, your own hard-headedness and hate for the stepmom is showing, and the kids are seeing it. Of course, they don't want to be around you, nor call you mom. You're not acting like one. My husband and I have 3 children, a teen son, a tween, and a young teen daughter. Our son got a part-time job as a lifeguard at a pool. It was a good job for him. He liked it and was happy to have the money. The issue was his boss was an idiot about giving time off. Our family takes a yearly vacation to this little beach house we rent for a year. We've done this since the year I was pregnant with my son. Of course, the kids all love it and look forward to it. Well, my son told his boss about the week he signed up, but he denied it because that was only 6 weeks after he started there. We made it clear he was still going. It's just a part-time job, and there are a million of those. He protested, but we made him go, and his boss fired him. He was furious the entire time. He refused to do any family stuff or listen to us. So he was grounded when he got back. It's not that we don't trust him to stay home alone or anything like that. We just don't want him to prioritize work over family, especially on weekends. He found a job at another pool 2 weeks later, so it's not like this impacted him in any way, but he still holds a grudge about it. He claims we didn't respect his choices, and he's right. We don't respect him trying to choose his job over family time, though we don't hold it against him since he's just a teen. Look, you forced him to go on vacation, costing him his job and his income. Then you grounded him for being upset. Unless you offered to make up his income, then I don't see how you were being fair. Did the kids love yearly vacations, or do you? You made him lose his job. He's a teen. It's not like he's prioritizing work over vacation at his age. He's just starting to get started, and now he's got a job that can't be used for a recommendation. What have you accomplished here? Your son was fired, made the vacation worse, didn't enjoy any of it, and has learned that you don't respect him. How exactly is that valuing family? You should apologize if you hope to see him after he graduates. Not only are you teaching your kid that strong work ethics aren't important, but you're also teaching him that his negative emotions aren't valid. He's angry at you because he's trying to become independent, and you're actually holding him back in a very controlling manner. Are you trying to keep your little baby from growing up and becoming a man, Mama? He's not a little boy anymore, and he had a commitment elsewhere. Then you punished him for being justifiably upset when he was fired. Allow your kid to grow up, and then you need to let go. My husband and I have 2 daughters, a teen and a nearly adult. My husband and I were always very introverted. We met at work, and I still don't know how we ended up dating, but I'm lucky we did. Both of us have a handful of friends, but after we married, and especially once the girls were born, we sort of drifted off from everyone. Our oldest is the exact same way. She has no friends, which she's glad about. She doesn't find socializing very fulfilling and prefers to keep to herself. For extra treat, one can hooked her up with a therapist a few years ago to make sure she was all right. And she's just introverted. Our youngest, on the other hand, is a social butterfly. She has about 8 best friends and seems to know her entire class. Since she got her first phone this year, she's constantly chatting and texting with people. The rest of us just vanish into our rooms after school and work, so she'll spend all day just making small talk. We're supportive. Obviously, she has different needs from the rest of us, and we need to meet them. The issue is we prefer a quiet house. The toddler stage was unbearable, and even our oldest likes the quiet. We want our home to be a calm, relaxed place, which tends to clash with a bunch of teens running around. So we allow her to hang out or sleep over at her friends' houses, but we don't allow them to meet here. We've explained that it would be too disruptive to the rest of us, and we want peace of mind in our home. She called us selfish and even called us a bunch of shut-ins. Now, she's barely talking to us and even stopped speaking to her sister, who she's very close with. I'd like to know if we aren't supporting her needs well enough. And maybe we are being selfish. Introversion does not mean that one can't have social skills. I'm sick and tired of other introverts using their introversion as an excuse. You are actively failing your daughter as parents. Does she need to have friends over every day? No, but never. Come on, you are being selfish and you're not supporting her needs. Agreed. I'm an introvert, and not only did I survive my siblings' friends coming by, but I also loved having my friends over. I get that interaction can be draining up, but the kid is a teen. You don't have to watch them like a hawk. They'll hang out peacefully at that age. Just check in once or twice, and the oldest can perfectly ignore them. Have you and your husband tried therapy? There's introverted and needing quiet. But to need quiet 24/7 and never allowing your daughter to have friends over is not normal or healthy. It's bordering on a social. So introvert and shut in here. A crowd of loud teenage girls is my idea of a living nightmare. It was a living nightmare in school, and it's still 20 years later. I understand where you're coming from, but you are the idiot. You're neglecting her needs, which could end up with her being shunned by her other friends as she's unable to reciprocate their invitations. It doesn't have to be every weekend. It can have specified start and finish times. There can be ground rules about noise and acceptable behaviors. But you need to extend your home to her friends on occasion. Your kids need the freedom to express who they are in their own home, not just the one who takes after you. We have some family activities. We'll watch a movie together and we have dinner together. But aside from that, not really. That's just the way we're wired. However, I get the picture. I'll talk to my husband about letting your daughter have someone over, maybe bi-monthly. And it's just not how I want it. It's the way 3 people are more comfortable. I, 34, a female, have lived in my house for about 4 years. It's a lovely neighborhood, and I generally have a great relationship with my neighbors. And I need some perspective on whether or not I'm the idiot here. Dave and his family moved into the house next door about a year ago. They have a narrow driveway that can only fit one car, and their house doesn't have much street parking available. This wasn't a problem until recently, when Dave started hosting these large gatherings at his house. During these gatherings, Dave's guests would park their cars on the street, which would quickly become overcrowded. As a result, some of his guests started using my driveway without asking for permission. Initially, I let it slide because I didn't want to cause any conflict. However, it began happening more frequently and on a few occasions. I'd be unable to move my own car when I had to go to work or leave for my own business, forcing me to go to Dave's house and play a guessing game for someone to move their car. I decided to address this issue with Dave, explaining that I didn't mind his guests occasionally using my driveway. Still, I would appreciate it if he could ask permission first. Dave seemed understanding and apologized for the inconvenience. However, the situation didn't improve. Dave continued to host gatherings, and his guests continued to use my driveway without permission. Finally, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I placed Alienated too. I placed a no parking sign in my driveway, along with a polite note asking Dave's guests to respect my property and a warning that I'd have their vehicles towed. Last weekend, Dave hosted another party and his guests were forced to find alternative parking due to the sign. Dave confronted me, saying that I was unreasonable and should be more accommodating to his guests. He argued that it was just for a few hours and that I was creating unnecessary tension in the neighborhood. I stood my ground, explaining that I had tried to address the issue politely and that my driveway is my private property. Since then, Dave and I have not spoken to each other, with him and his family most of the time shooting me a bad look. So, am I the idiot for not allowing my neighbor to use my driveway for his guests, despite having tried to address the issue politely? Your whole question boils down to, am I the idiot for wanting to be able to go to work, run errands, and leave in case of an emergency, even if it might inconvenience someone attending a party I was not invited to and have no interest in attending? Invited to. No, you are not the idiot for not wanting to be stuck at your house when a neighbor hosts parties you weren't invited to. And he's the one creating unnecessary tension in the neighborhood with his entitlement. And like the fact that the guests respect the sign makes me think that Dave told them they could park there. But once the sign went up, his friends knew that he didn't ask, and that he was an idiot. That's why he and his family are mad. Who cares what Dave thinks? Oh, my neighbor's angry with me because I wouldn't let him take advantage of me. He can act like a petulant child all day long. That doesn't make it right. It is your driveway and your property, not his. His guests need to carpool or Uber to his place. If one of them gets injured or has an accident on your property, guess who can be held liable and sued? Not Dave. You keep the sign up and start towing. Don't give any more warnings. Just tow. I, 34, male, have a teen nephew, Luca. Luca is my sister Gwen's son. Gwen's relationship with Luca's dad ended when he was just a baby, and his dad died soon after. Gwen was in a relationship after he died for 2 years, but that ended when she wanted her partner to marry her and adopt Luca before he'd remember life without him. I remember my sister being distressed about Luca not having a dad. My parents and my other sister told her repeatedly that he needed a good mom who was focused on giving him a good life, and she was enough. She didn't take it on board for at least another year. Then she suddenly declared she was going to be single until he was an adult. That lasted all of a year when she met her husband, Rich. Rich had his own 2 kids who were tweens at the time. Luca was a kindergartner when they met. Gwen and Rich were dating for a year before they married, and it was one of those dynamics where everyone could see it was not what they were presenting to the world, but they didn't care. Rich's kids didn't like that he was remarried, and they took an extra special dislike toward Luca because he was forced onto them. It created a very painful dynamic for Luca. Emmy family would step in and ask if Gwen was sure that this was good for Luca. Rich's kids didn't seem too fond of Luca, and Luca seemed to be left out by the older kids. She'd say that they're slowly warming up, or Rich is handling it. Luca and I really bonded around this time. He would come to me and I would let him vent and give him a place to share his frustrations and fears. He mentioned countless times that Gwen or Rich would get his step-siblings to bring him with them, and they would walk away and leave him behind in places like the mall or the park. I would help him tell Gwen, and she would blow it off as nothing to worry about since Luca was fine. I told Gwen that Luca was really struggling to find his place when she was telling him one thing and the kids were telling him another. She told me he would listen to her since she's his mom. Last year, Luca came to live with me after he asked, and I had spoken to some people who would help. It wasn't easy, but he's happier now. But through the legal fight for me to get custody, he was diagnosed with depression, revealing his experiences in the home contributed to it. According to a court-appointed therapist, it also had harmed his self-esteem to an alarming degree. A few days ago, Gwen and I ended up in the same place, and she told me that I interfered in something that wasn't my business. I told her that Luca deserved a better mom than her, and she needed to not talk to me when I was the one there for her son and not her. She burst into tears and laughed. She told our parents and my other sister. Our parents said I was right, but our other sister told me I should have walked away without saying that to her. Gwen even emailed me a whole letter saying why I was an idiot and how I had broken her heart. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It can't be fun to hear you failed as a mother. But I imagine it's a lot easier than being a kid with a parent that failed them. Thank you for looking out for Luca. You told your sister the facts, and the facts are that she failed as a mother. So much to the point where a court would rather give her own child to someone else than have the child stay with her. And that's simply sad. I hope you responded to the email with, well, now you know what your son has felt for the past years with such a crappy mother. But I'm petty. A peep of her heart, kept your peace and asked you, not that her son is depressed. She should be ashamed of herself. Crappy parenting is one of those topics that should never be sugar-coated. The kid's whole life is at stake, so her feelings in the grand scheme of things don't mean crap. Thus only when she can fully admit that she sucked as a mom and failed Luca can progress be made. Both of your sisters are idiots. I say, yes, both. You reply, your other sister telling you that you should have walked away. Obviously doesn't care enough about Luca to stand up for him as you have. It feels like she was perfectly fine with him being treated like this. I'm so glad you helped him. Look, the foundation and safety you've given Luca cannot be congratulated enough. He needed you, and you were there for him.